If you've been trying to get pregnant for a while with no success, you might have some issues with your hormones, and you might be concerned about what you can actually do about that. I hear often this specific sentence: balance your hormones, or hormone imbalance. But what does it actually mean? And most importantly, how do we know if your hormones or our hormones are imbalanced, and what can we do about them if they actually are? And I actually know a thing or two about your hormones, as I've been helping thousands of women improve their fertility and get pregnant over the last 20 years that I've been a natural fertility expert. I've helped them by finding out what's not letting them get pregnant, developing a personalized fertility plan for them, and most importantly, giving them ongoing support while they're following the plan to improve their health and fertility. You can check out a few of the success stories from members of my Hope program right here. They're going to tell you firsthand about their struggles and what we did together so that they could finally achieve the dream that they've been looking for, which is get pregnant. To make it even more helpful for you on your fertility journey, I've created this free fertility guide, the 7 steps that you need to take now to empower your fertility, that you can download and use to get started to create your own fertility plan right now. I'll leave the link in the description below as well. Let's learn more about hormones and hormone balance. Okay, so what is actually normal when we're talking about hormones, and what's abnormal? What does it mean if they're balanced or they're not balanced? Well, hormones are balancing throughout the day, from day to day. So not only are they balancing from the morning to the evening, but they're balancing from one day to the next based on where you are in your cycle. This varies based on not only where you are in your cycle, but what is actually happening inside your body and what your body needs in that given moment hormonally. So when we talk about balanced hormones, the balance depends on what is needed at any given time of your menstrual cycle. And that will change from day to day and from one part of your cycle to the next part of your cycle. I often see women who have hormonal issues or imbalances as a result of birth control, the use of hormones during an IVF cycle, or other true medical conditions or syndromes that are impacting their hormones. Anytime we add hormones into our body, whether it is through birth control, through medication specifically needed for IVF or IUI, whether that is through unwanted hormones, through food or supplements, that is going to impact your hormone balance and what your hormones should be doing or not doing at any given time of your cycle. So when you stop those things, your body has to get your body back in balance, your hormones back in balance, and that can take some time, but it is absolutely possible. So what do all of these things have to do, and how do we manage that throughout our cycle? I think the most important thing right now is for us to understand what hormones are important and what they should be doing at any given time of our cycle, so that we understand how they need to be balanced, again, because that's going to be different at different times of your cycle. So let me jump into that right now. So I think the first place that I actually want to start is with a hormone called AMH, anti-Müllerian hormone. This is not a hormone that will directly impact your menstrual cycles from day to day, but it is a hormone that is commonly discussed in fertility. So I feel like it's an important thing to mention. And because it's not something that is governing your health and your cycles on a daily basis, I think it's important to start with it, number one. So anti-Müllerian hormone is a hormone that theoretically tests ovarian reserve. We test this through the blood. That is the only way that I'm aware that can be tested, although some of the other hormones we'll discuss can be tested through urine and saliva as well. AMH, you will hear, can be tested at any cycle day throughout your menstrual cycle, which theoretically is correct, but I'm going to tell you from 20 years of experience, I find the most accurate time to test AMH, that is going to give you the most accurate number, is going to be at the beginning of your cycle. So cycle days 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay, but it is not cycle dependent. I will also say that other variables that impact that number are going to be the use of hormones, so birth control, IVF medication, IVF stimulation, and the longer you're on those, the more you're doing them, the more it's going to impact that specific hormone. I will also say that it is probably the least accurate hormone of all the hormones that we're going to discuss today. AMH is not reliable and is also an important variable for all of you, is not a predictor of your ability to conceive and stay pregnant and have a healthy pregnancy. I find this number changes all the time, which it shouldn't. And so I think it's important to test it and understand and have a baseline, but I don't want you to base all your fertility needs and treatment based on this one number. Okay, estrogen. And we're going to specifically talk about one estrogen, E2, which is estradiol. As the name implies, E2, there are 3 hormones, E1, E2, E3. We're talking about the second one, estradiol, which is the most important for what we're discussing when it comes to fertility, okay? It's also a hormone that is specifically connected to your follicular development, or the amount of eggs that you're producing and their maturation and growth, okay? In the beginning of your menstrual cycle, estrogen can be lower or should be lower, and I like to see it between the range of 30 to 80, okay? Whatever it says on your lab work is fine, but that's not for fertility needs, okay? So that range is gonna be wider. For healthy, good ovarian function, estrogen should be somewhere between 30 and 80, and my sweet spot is between 40 and 60. I think that's an ideal spot to be in, okay? As you progress through your cycle and as you get closer, more specifically to ovulation, your estrogen or estradiol will increase. And it will increase in relationship to your ovarian function and the amount of follicles that you're producing. So this will change and vary if you have 1 or 2 mature follicles, or like if you're going through IVF, if you have more mature follicles because they're stimulating your ovaries to produce more, that estrogen number will increase from there. As that number rises, okay, we get closer to ovulation. And I'm going to come back to that in just a moment as we cover some other hormones before that. The other key hormone to discuss right now is FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. This is a key hormone that a lot of you really keep a close eye on in the fertility world because it is a marker for egg quality. And as the name suggests, follicle stimulating hormone, it's a hormone that stimulates your ovaries to mature and grow those follicles or those eggs to get larger. Remember, we only need 1 good follicle every month to mature, and typically we only ovulate or release 1 egg every month to be fertilized at ovulation and produce a baby. So that's what FSH does, and that number should also rise as we get closer to ovulation, and the growth of the follicle increases as we get closer to ovulation. In the luteal phase, the second half of your cycle, so the first half of your cycle is called the follicular phase, where the follicles are developing. The second half of your cycle is called the luteal phase. Okay, it's where progesterone is more dominant, and that is because of the corpus luteum, so luteal. Okay, so we have 2 halves of the cycle. Your estrogen and FSH are not essential in the second half. I'm not saying they're not important. They're not essential in the second half of your cycle, and their levels will vary at that stage, again, depending on what is going on. In the first half, while we're just rounding things up, we have 2 other key hormones. So in the follicular phase, we are looking at 2 other key hormones. One is luteinizing hormone. This should roughly be at the same level as follicle stimulating hormone. And I realize I didn't say what FSH, the levels it should be at in the follicular phase. So around cycle day 2, 3, or 4, which is when these hormones should be tested, FSH should be somewhere between 5 and 10. That's the great place for it to be. As it rises, we start to get more concerned over egg quality. It doesn't mean that we can't get pregnant, and doesn't mean that we can't change that number and influence it. I'm just saying that we become a little bit more concerned about egg quality. FSH and LH should be 1-to-1 ratio. We rarely see it exactly the same number, so if FSH is 8, we rarely see that LH is 8, but we want them as close to that as possible. We also are looking at the relationship between FSH and estradiol, and this becomes a little bit more complex, but if estradiol is too high, it will suppress FSH, so we want to make sure that they're balanced, which is why we want it in that range of somewhere between 30 and 80. Estradiol. LH, luteinizing hormone, increases and reaches its peak at ovulation. It causes the follicle to rupture and open up and release that egg. That's right. So it's important that we see that rise and peak. It will stay relatively flatlined until we get to ovulation, where it peaks and causes that rupture to happen. The other important hormone in the follicular phase is progesterone. But I want to be clear, progesterone is supposed to be low, very low in the follicular phase. Okay, we only want to see progesterone rise as we get to ovulation, and we want to see it peak 7 days after ovulation. So in the luteal phase, that's where progesterone should be more dominant. So if we are talking about relationships of estrogen and progesterone, and we start using these words of like estrogen dominance, that is something that will be dependent on what cycle day you test your estrogen, what it looks like in relationship to progesterone, and where you are in your menstrual cycle. So it's really important to understand all of those variables because your hormone balance will be dependent on all of that. So as you can see, hormones are very much cycle dependent, and I'm only covering the main hormones that we look at right now. And it's really important that you get those tested at the right time of your cycle. So I do like to test all the ones I just mentioned in the beginning of the cycle day 2, 3, or 4, okay? That's AMH, FSH, estradiol, LH, and progesterone. But I expect progesterone to be low at this time of the cycle. We can also track it with a myriad of trackers, and if you want more information on trackers and what they do, I'll put some resources down below for you to help you track your cycles and your hormones throughout your cycle. But LH rises at ovulation, which is what an ovulation predictor kit is really primarily checking. They're also checking usually estradiol to see that it's rising right before. And then we want to check progesterone in the luteal phase, ideally 7 days post-ovulation to see where it peaks. And you can also test that 7 days post-ovulation through blood work. I did mention earlier that most of this is tested through blood work, which is correct. They should all be tested through blood, but you can test some of these through urine as well and through saliva. I prefer blood in most instances, but the kits that you're going to be using are going to be testing it through urine, which is just fine because those are the metabolites of these hormones. All right, so did you like the video? What information was important for you? Comment below and let me know. And more importantly, what questions do you have about your hormones and the balance between them all and when they should be tested? I want to hear from you, so let me know your fertility questions and what you thought about this video. If you want to really go deep into your fertility and hopefully get to the root cause of what's not allowing you to get pregnant, then be sure to fill out the application as soon as possible. And you can do that with the link in the description below. That will allow you to speak to a real person on my team to identify if my program is the right program for you and what the next steps are for you on your fertility journey. And hopefully that is working with me and my team. I'm also going to drop a link here to a video to allow you to help continue to learn on your fertility journey. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you're not already a subscriber to my YouTube channel, please hit that bell to subscribe and get notified when I put out another video for all of you. Until the next video, stay fertile.